back to another very exciting daily creative challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. How are you guys doing today? I'm already seeing a lot of people in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. Sam, Justin, William, Jeffrey, Suzanne, Katrin, thank you so much for being with me. It's a beautiful morning here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. Again, this is the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. This is challenge number 1, and we're going to be working with a pet portrait. You're going to learn about color burn, color dodging, blurring images, doing a whole bunch of cool stuff, but hopefully in a different way that you haven't seen before, something that's a little new, so I hope that you enjoy it. I'm seeing a lot of people coming on the chat now. The video's looking much better today. Thank you. I'm so glad that it is. Hello from Germany. Hey, Paco, how's it going? Good to see you. But anyway, let's get started. We don't have a lot of time, and as usual, I have a whole bunch of things to show you. So let me go into my computer here, and what you should be seeing on screen now is the Daily Creative Challenge page. You can access it by going into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. Once again, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And by the way, if you're watching from YouTube, head over to Behance anyway, because if you're leaving comments on YouTube, I won't be able to see them. So you need to leave them on the Behance page so that I can see your comments. So make sure that you head over to Behance if you're on YouTube. But anyway, on this page, you should see this big blue button titled Hi Jesus, my name, but in your version, you'll see your name. Take the challenge. So make sure that you click on that big blue button so that you get notified through the Creative Cloud notifications about these daily creative challenges. They're going to be running from March 16, which was yesterday, but today's the first challenge, all the way until March 27. We're going to have a total of 9 challenges. Today is the first one. And if you scroll down, you'll see that today we have the March 17 challenge. And actually, let me refresh it because there should be there it is. It's unlocked. I needed to refresh the page so that we could unlock the first challenge. And you need to click on this Get Started button so that you can download the file that we're going to work with. Today, you can follow along with me with my photo, or you can use your own photo. We're going to be creating a pet portrait today. So this is a picture of my cat. His name is Chicharito, but since nobody could pronounce it, people just started calling him Kitty and Mr. Meow. So it kind of stuck with me as Mr. Meow. So I call him Mr. Meow all the time. So I don't call him his real name anymore, although his name is Chicharito. But I call him Mr. Meow now. He's been called Mr. Meow now for maybe even 10 years. But anyway, and the replay will be here where it says watch video. So make sure that you remember this page is a very important page. Also very important, make sure that you click on community chat. That will get you right over into our community page from Discord. From here, you'll be able to see a lot of cool things like the current challenge tab here on the left under feedback. From this page, you'll be able to upload the work that you created. You can see some of the work from the previous challenge. This is the work that Claudia from Print My Soul was making. If I remember correctly, was this the animated GIF? I know she had an animated GIF and she was creating these paradise pyramid type of graphics. It was a whole theme going on. But anyway, you can see the work that people created on the previous challenge. So make sure that you come into Discord so that you can submit your work, and myself and the other Adobe community mentors and team could help you with that, including Voodoo Val, Claudia from Print My Soul, Tim. So everyone's there. Make sure that you come into Discord so that you could submit your work. So once again, that's on behance.net/challenge/Photoshop so that you could get access to these resources. The files that you're going to be unlocking every day and the community chat. Also, if you don't have Photoshop, make sure that you click on download Photoshop here. You can get the trial. You can decide to get the full version of the Creative Cloud. One thing that I showed yesterday is that if you click on the buy now button, you'll see this plan for like $39. If you don't want the whole Creative Cloud, you can just click on CO Creative Cloud plans, go into individuals, and the photography plan, which includes Photoshop and Lightroom, it's only $10 a month. So check that out. So let me quickly take a look at the chat and see if there's any questions, comments, or concerns. Leandra from North Carolina, how's it going? Anna, how are you today? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so let's get started with Photoshop, and let me open up my image here. So I'm going to go into File and Open, and I've already gone ahead and downloaded my started file, and there he is. His name is Chicharito. You can see there on the layer name, but he is known as Mr. Meow. And what we're going to be doing today is creating a pet portrait. So this is his favorite spot. I have a computer chair next to one of those sliding doors that's like a giant window, and he likes sitting there and just looks outside all day long. He doesn't get off from that chair. He's probably there now, and he just looks at the squirrels and the owls and the deer that I have going through my backyard. So he really enjoys that spot. So that's where he is all day. So I took a picture of him, and we're gonna take this photo and we're gonna turn it into a pet portrait. But before I do that, I want to go over what dodging and burning is, and also what blurring is, because I know that's what's in the title of this challenge, but I'm gonna try to do it a little bit different than what most people do it. So I'll explain what the tools are, what they do, and then like a different way of applying the same thing, but with more control, at least in my opinion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to first of all talk about dodging and burning. What is dodging and burning? Well, first, let me just create a layer and I'll fill it with white. You can fill with white by pressing Control and Backspace, because white is currently my background color. I'm on a Windows machine. That will be Command and Delete on a Mac to fill with the background color, which is white. And then I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select the elliptical marker key tool, and I'm just going to create a circle, and I'm going to fill, Shift and Backspace, Shift Delete on the Mac to bring up the fill window, and I'll select 50% gray. And there you go. I have a flat circle, right? So what is dodging and what is burning? In Photoshop, we have these tools here in the toolbar called Dodge tool, and underneath that, the Burn tool. So let's start with the Burn tool. The Burn tool allows me to make pixels darker. And as you probably have guessed, the Dodge tool allows you to make pixels brighter. But why do you want to do that? You want to do that so that you can apply shape to an image, to change the lighting if you're compositing, to do all kinds of cool things with lighting. So notice that if I start darkening parts of my circle here, I start adding shape to it. See that? See how it's becoming rounder? It feels more three-dimensional. And now I'm going to select the Dodge tool and just brighten the top area up. See that? See how I'm just giving it shape just by adding highlights and shadows to the current pixel. So that's what dodging and burning is all about, creating shape and changing the lighting to create a more dramatic portrait in this case. So that is just the theory behind what we're gonna do today. And as you saw, I use the dodging and burning tools. And when you dodge and burn, basically what you do is essentially what I just did there. Create a new layer, Shift and Backspace to fill, and under Content, select 50% gray and press OK. And on the drop down, you can select either Overlay or Soft Light. You might notice that these blending modes are in between two little lines. Above Overlay, there's a little line, and below Hard Mix, there's another little line. All the blending modes between those lines, actually except for Hard Mix, make 50% gray invisible. So with any one of these blending modes, 50% gray is invisible. So if you select Overlay or Soft Light, they become invisible, right? But if I start dodging with the Dodge tool, I can make the highlights brighter. See that? See how I'm making the highlights brighter? And if I start burning with the Burn tool, I can make the shadows darker. See that? And then I can disable the layer before and after. See how really quickly I changed the lighting and the mood of this portrait just by adding shadows and highlights? So that's the whole theory behind dodging and burning. And although this technique is great, I'm going to show you another technique that I think gives you a little more control, and it'll make the portrait just a lot easier to work with and make changes when you need to. Because at this point, if you need to make a change, you won't be able to, because, I mean, you will be able to, but you need to basically paint with gray. So I will need to paint with, select the brush tool, make 50% gray, my foreground color by double clicking on it. It comes up. I'll change the brightness to 50, press OK, and then I can start painting with 50% gray, which essentially erases that, and I will need to dodge and burn again. So that could become a little bit tedious if you want to make changes, but what I'm going to do now is use a different technique. Actually, before I do so, let me check the chat and see if there's any questions. You can always go back and watch the replays. I only have 30 minutes to do this, and I have a habit of just trying to give you as much information as possible, so sorry if I'm going a little too fast, but these are recorded. If you go back into the Discord page that I showed you guys earlier, you can see that there's a watch video. Oh wait, this is not the page, is it? Yes, it is. I just gotta go up a little higher. Right here, watch video. These are all recorded, so you can watch me, you can watch Claudia from last week, Voodoo Bella the previous time, and then I think you can see me again like from 2-3 months ago, so they're all recorded. So don't worry, if you miss something, you can always go back and watch it. And actually, as you're watching live, you could also click and drag on the playhead and go back, and then you'll be a little bit, you won't be live anymore, but at least you'll get to repeat something that you might have missed if you want to. But anyway, so the other thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is blurring, and there is a blur tool in Photoshop. It's right here. It's the blur tool. See that blur tool? And if you make sure that you have sample all layers checked in the options bar and create a new layer, I can start painting and I'm going to blur. Now, I really don't usually like to do this because when you paint, it might take a few seconds for Photoshop to make that blur because you're creating new pixels. So if you have a slow computer, it can get a little slow, but let me zoom in here and you can kind of see what I did there. Let me see. Before and after. I know it's subtle, but I could keep, painting on that. Maybe I'll increase the strength so that you can see. If I keep painting, you'll see that I am in fact blurring that area. So that's how you would blur an image. But again, I'm just showing you the steps that people do, but I'm going to show you like a better way that you have total control. So those are the two things we're going to look at today: dodging and burning and blurring an image to make our pet portrait. So I'm going to delete these layers because that's not what we're going to show today. Instead, we're going to create it into a smart object. I'm going to right click on the layer. Oops, sorry about that. Right click on the layer, convert to smart object. A smart object is simply a container that allows you to apply adjustments, filters, transformations non-destructively, which means you can always come back and edit them. So smart object. And then I'm going to go to my good friend, the camera raw filter, under the filter menu. So let me bring this up. And yes, I do want to get started with it. By the way, this is like a brand new laptop. I just opened it up a couple days ago, and I think this is the first time I opened Camera Raw in it, which is why I got that notification. But anyway, so the first thing is going to be a little bit of a side note. I'm going to make a black and white portrait because I think it'll be more dramatic. But instead of just making it black and white by clicking on the black and white button there, I'm going to use a profile, and I'm going to click on browse. And I don't want to get into too much detail about what a profile is. With raw images, which this is not, this is a JPEG, but with raw images, profiles allow you to create a starting point of how you're going to edit your images. They help convert data into actual pixels and determines what color is red, what color is black, like how does that look on screen. So that's basically what a profile is. I'll talk more about profiles when I do my Lightroom stream starting on Wednesday. So starting on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a live Lightroom stream here. So I'll talk more about profiles, but for today, just think of profiles as a starting point that will allow us to create a look on this JPEG images. So on this JPEG image, I'm going to click on the black and white drop down here. And I'm going to scroll down, and you can just click on them to see how the different looks look on the image. See that? It just creates all these different ones, right? And you can find the one that you like. I'm going to go for the black and white, from the black and white, I can't even say the number for some reason, black and white number 11 profile. Black and white number 11 profile, and I'll press OK, and it applies that profile. And I just wanted to show you guys one thing. I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that it's not completely black. So that's really what I wanted. I wanted a black that was sort of like a matte black, and that's what we're going to be working with. I also pressed OK because I wanted to show you that because we had a smart object, we can always come back and make adjustments. You can see the camera raw filter label right down here. If I double click on that, it brings up the camera filter once again, and I can continue adjusting from the previous point. So it wasn't a complete adjustment. So let me see if there's any questions in the chat. I can see that Roberto asked about my laptop. Yeah, this is a Windows machine. It's an MSI Prestige 15, which is a creator, quote unquote, laptop. It one of the cool things about it is that it has Adobe RGB at 100%, which is something that I want in a computer because it can represent colors properly. So if you're someone who's interested in good colors, then I recommend this laptop. But yeah, that's what I have, Alberto, MSI Prestige 15. But anyway, so the portrait now can benefit from adjusting the lighting of the image. So I'm just going to decrease the highlights a little bit and maybe decrease the shadows. I want it to be a little dark and moody, and I accidentally dragged the whites. I didn't mean to. You can double click on a slider to reset it. And this is a really, really cool slider, the texture slider, especially for photos that have fur, in this case, the fur of the cat. And I can click and drag the texture, and notice how much the texture starts popping from Mr. Meow's fur. So it's a really, really awesome texture, awesome slider to bring out texture. Clarity is contrast and edge pixels. So I'm gonna drag that over to the right to create more of a pop, more of a grungy effect. And I'm really liking the way this is looking. So now I'm gonna show you the dodging and burning and also the blurring, but with more control. So in Camera Raw, and just like in Lightroom, you have local adjustments. Here I'm going to use the adjustment brush. I'm going to click on it, and you'll notice that I have some sticky sliders here, which means that whatever effect I applied last gets applied to the new adjustment. So you can click on the flyout menu and hit on reset settings, and then I can just start painting on the cat. But when I paint, nothing will happen. Let me make my brush smaller. I'm using the left bracket key on the keyboard for that. And I'm just gonna paint on the cat, but nothing is happening, right? Well, that's because I haven't made an adjustment, but watch what happens when I bring down the exposure. See that? See how it's just creating shadows? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this brush as my dodging. I'm sorry, burning. Dodging is making brighter. I'm burning right now, sorry about that. But anyway, so you can come in here and you can decide which areas you want darker and brighter. Obviously, this is way too much, but this is the advantage of using this technique, that I can now reduce the intensity with the slider. So I'm still painting like I was before, but now I have the advantage of being able to control the sliders to control the intensity. I can click on this new button to create a new brush, and I can paint, and it's still making things darker, but I don't want this second brush to make things darker. I want the second brush to make things brighter. So I'm going to move the exposure slider to the right. There we go. So now I can decide which areas are going to have highlights. I can click on this dot. It's not letting me click on it. Let me try that one more time by coming in here and zooming in. Oh, it looks like it created a new one. But anyway, oh, there you go. Once I hover over it, it turns white, and I can click on it, and I can continue painting with the dark exposure. In other words, burn. And obviously this is totally subjective. It's totally up to you. You decide how you want your portrait to look, what areas are going to have more light, what areas are going to have less light and more shadows to make it more dramatic. Totally up to you. You can click on this icon to see the before and the after, and again you can always come back and click on these points to see the overlay and then adjust them accordingly. The next thing that I want to show you is the blurring. So the way that I like blurring on here, I could also do it by painting, but instead of painting, I want to create sort of like a blur vignette, kind of like the Instagram filters that everybody was doing, years ago, where the outer edges are blurry, but the main focus was sharp. So the way that I would do that is by clicking on the radio filter and click and drag on the cat's head and zoom out. Notice that it's applying the last settings that I had here, so I'll just reset these settings. And then if I come down, you'll see this sharpness slider. If I drag it to the left, it's gonna blur everything in the outside. If you're doing this and it blurs everything on the inside, all you have to do is click on this outside button. So in other words, your inside box will be checked. So make sure that you check outside so that blurs everything on the outside. So I'm blurring the pixels by dragging the sharpness slider to the left, and I can also reduce the texture, which will also create a blurring effect. And I can even darken it just a tiny little bit, just so that he is the main focus. He's the star. Mr. Meow is the star of this stream and also my portrait. So I'm looking at Justin say the amount of control is delicious. Yes, it is delicious. I'm like a big control freak. Hopefully not in real life, just in Photoshop. But I really like having the most control as possible when I'm working. So anyway, so that's the adjustment there. That's before and after. And what I'm gonna do now is click on the hand tool to bring back my basic controls, and I can go into the sharpening because I do want to sharpen it a bit more. I want this fur to really stand out. But when you click and drag on the sharpening slider, you really can't see what's going on. Two things. First of all, make sure that you're looking at the photo at 100% view. Any other view could be misleading, so you can see how it really affects the image. Also, once you get an appropriate level of sharpening, you may want to bring it back down to fit in view, and now you can control what areas are affected. Notice that you have a masking slider, but if you click and drag, you really don't know what's going on. It's really hard to see. So if you hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click on masking, you'll notice that we get a mask. So anything that is black will not get the sharpening effect. Anything that is white will get the sharpening effect. So I'm just gonna drag it so that most of the white is on Mr. Meow, just so that the sharpening effect is applied mostly to his fur. And then that would guarantee that the blurriness of the background won't really have any sharpening effect applied to it. And how did I make the red and white circles disappear by Lawrence? Red and white, I'm assuming you're talking about the adjustment brush. So if I have the adjustment brush selected, I can just click on the hand tool and it just goes into a different panel where those are not accessible anymore. I think that's what you were talking about, Lawrence. I'm not sure if that was the question. Let me see if there's any more questions here. Cool. Yeah, so we don't have a lot of time, so let me just press OK for now. Actually, one last thing I want to show you. I'm going to go into the effects panel here under effects, and you guys probably know this if you've been watching me for a while, but I really like adding grain to images, so I'm just going to add a little bit of grain to make it more grungy, and I'm going to add some post-crop vignetting just to like really get them in there. Also, a quick trick, when you drag the amount slider to the left, it makes things darker, obviously. But if you click and drag the highlights to the right, notice that the highlights start popping out from that vignette. So you may want to do that. And this is a little too extreme, but I'm just going to press OK. And that is our cat portrait. I actually worked on a version for a little longer than 30 minutes without talking, and that's what I'm going to be posting on my Behance page. Make sure that you post on Behance. Make sure that you post on Discord. So once again, go into the Daily Creative Challenge page. Make sure that you click on Community Chat so that you can go on Discord. And from Discord, make sure that you click on Current Challenge so that you can post your pet portraits. I would love to see what your pet portraits look like. I would like to see what you do with Mr. Meow. So make sure that you come into the Discord channel under Current Challenge and upload your work. I'm dying to see it. And also make sure that you stick around right after me, because in about 5 minutes, we're going to have Voodoo Val and Tim come into the stream, and they're going to be talking about Adobe Fresco. And they may or may not be in the same place. I don't know. Maybe one of them is in California. Maybe one of them is Europe. Who knows? But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being with me. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.